Hi everyone, let's go over my medium time frame, low time frame and micro bullish and bearish Elliott Wave scenarios on Bitcoin, starting with my medium time frame bearish scenario where we are looking for a zigzag to the downside in a 535 where wave B is already finished after an expanding flat, meaning we are now looking for a wave C to the downside where the most common target for wave C is between the 1 and the 1.236, sitting between 27k and 26.3k. Now in this scenario, because on the micro time frame this move to the downside counts much better as a zigzag structure, a 3-wave instead of a 5-wave move, we have to think about diagonals, and we have ending and leading diagonals. In an ending diagonal all the waves have to be 3-wave structures, and in a leading diagonal all the waves can either be 3-wave structures or a 5-3-5-3-5, but of course we are then looking for all waves to be a 3-wave structure. Now the reason that now I counted this leading diagonal over here as a wave 1 followed by a 2 and then a 3, 4, 5 is because if this would be an ending diagonal, it would be very short. The rare target for a wave C is the gray line that you see on the chart over here, which is sitting at 28.2k. And that is a rare target for a wave C. And this diagonal, looking at the wave 1, is never going to be long enough to reach the common target area for a wave C in diagonal fashion. It could potentially reach the 0.618, but then you really want to see price moving to the downside instead of ranging horizontally and maybe even moving to the upside, because in this scenario we would then already be looking for a finished wave 1 to the downside and then a 3-wave structure, a finished wave 2 with then potentially a wave 3 finish, or this is the first structure, second structure, and you'd be looking for another move down. The invalidation for a wave 3 is the 1-to-1 over here, as a wave 3 has to be shorter than wave 1 in a contracting diagonal, and wave 5 has to be shorter than wave 3. So the invalidation is this 1-to-1 taken from the high to the low to the current high of wave 2 over here, which is sitting at 28,275 on the Bitcoin chart. If we then go to the medium time frame bullish but then eventually a bearish scenario, we are looking still for a move towards the upside. So in this particular scenario, we are also looking at a zigzag ABC to the downside, but wave B is not yet finished. So now we have wave B up here, where I think the triple top at 30.4k is incredibly interesting. Now a minimum target for wave B is the 382 fib, which has been hit, but then again, if we are looking for a 535, we want to see impulsive structures to the downside and not a 3-wave structure. So in this scenario, because this is a 3-wave structure, we are looking at wave B to be unfinished and therefore would expect another move to the upside to potentially take this high for then an impulsive structure with 5 waves towards the downside. And the triple top is interesting because there must be some liquidity resting above these highs. We have some additional resistance at that area as well. As you can see, we have the blue resistance box over here between 34 and 30.6k, so that is definitely interesting. Also, it does have to go through the resistance area we have between 30 and 30.1k. So that is an area to at least look for if price is going to move towards the upside, which at the moment still is the higher probability. If we look at the volume profiles, which I think is interesting, this was posted by Liquid Mafia in the Discord group yesterday. We still have, you could say, a naked range point of control, like in the previous range, this one over here, this volume profile. What happened is price was ranging over here and eventually was at the lower edges of the range, moved up, hit the point of control before moving down. And Liquid Mafia in the group mentioned, well, we never had a bit of a range at the downside, move up, hit the point of control, and then move down. And I was like, oh yeah, that's actually quite interesting. So over here, what you can then see is we are now ranging in between the two volume profiles. You have the volume value area high of the bigger volume profile over here, and then you have this volume profile of the current range, and we're literally below the value area low. So we are in between the two value areas, and if we can find support, which we already did 3 times now, 1, 2, 3 times at the value area high, we might be looking for a move to the upside, where instead of being rejected at the value area low twice, we could move into this value area, reach the point of control, potentially the triple top area here as well, or even reach 31.1k, where we also have a resistance area over here for then a move towards the downside in that ABC scenario. Now if you look at the support resistance areas, then over here we are also in between support resistance area. So resistance over here then eventually a bit of support, more resistance, and now we could backtest or retest this again as support. Potentially we just missed out on hitting it, but if price would move down, one could argue this is support, but actually I don't really like this low to be taken from an Elliott Wave point of view. But also again here we have resistance, support for a while turning into resistance, so going above this level would be a step one for higher prices and potentially looking for that triple top. If we look at the low time frame bullish scenario, so we are now zooming in to the more local structures, which is of course then based on this scenario where we are looking for a wave B to the upside. So we are now zooming in to this structure over here. We go to the low time frame where we are then looking for a three-wave structure to the upside. So we then have a wave W, X, Y in this scenario as I now have on my chart, with in wave W an expanding flat, very nice, perfect expanding flat over here. Then we are looking for a wave X. Now if we would put wave X, and that's not my favorite at the moment, but if we put wave X over here at the low that we have and we pull a trend based fib from the low to the high to the low of wave X over here, you get the targets, most common targets for wave Y, and you can see that the 0.618 to the 1.236, this is a common target area, is below the key level, below the triple top level. Now the rare target for a wave Y is the 1.618, so it's still inside, let's say, the target area. It's just above the common target area, but okay, you know, we might be able to see through that. But also wave X, is it already in? Well, it's a little bit awkward to count this as the end of wave X, because if we are now going to zoom in to this structure over here, then what we are looking for in a wave X is again a three-wave structure. But if we look at this three-wave structure, then price over here did not yet hit the 0.618 for a three-wave structure. So what I mean with that is, if this is a three-wave move zigzag to the downside in a wave W, right? And we would say, okay, green X is already in, and this is the end of the structure for then a green Y, then the common target starts for a wave Y with the 0.618. But as you can see, it hasn't been hit. Price is floating over here above the 0.618, which is a minimum target for a wave Y. So if you take a trend based fib from the high to the low of W to the high of wave X, the minimum target for a wave Y has not yet been hit. And that is the reason why I'm still thinking about a longer sideways range before then potentially moving to the upside in a bigger wave Y. So then having the blue X finished, and then you'd be looking for a wave Y to the upside over here. So we have to wait and see how price is going to react locally to know exactly what is happening in this complex structure, because also locally here this is complex counting, definitely a complex structure, and preferably this low is gonna hold, because below this low over here there's not much support. You probably have this low next. If you take this low, very likely you take that one, but there's like no support anymore. It's kind of like finished. We have a big gap to the downside towards 27k. The only way you could see potential support is a swing failure pattern, grab the lows, move up, and then like this. But this is already like a swing failure pattern by itself, and this one as well, of the double bottom that we have. So the swing failure pattern of a swing failure pattern, those are quite rare unless they happen quite quickly after one another, but not after a whole range. So it's not really something I prefer. So preferably this is the low, and also this is the low for then whatever is going to happen here. Now if we look towards the upside, we do have some resistance above price here between 29.147 and 29.230. So that is at least something to look for. And if we think about a three-wave structure where wave W is finished, but we're looking for wave X, we could be looking for an A, B, C, or a W, X, Y, which seems a bit more likely at the moment, because this is not really an impulsive structure in a wave C, and then a 3-3-5 wave move where the target would be the 1.618. This looks very long sideways range, looks more like a three-wave structure where then the target for a WXY is in between the 1 and the 1.236. Now if you look for confluences above price at the moment, if it manages to push above this resistance area, we have the time naked point of control and we have the daily over here. So keep an eye on those, because those might be interesting resistance areas for then the continuation of this quite long range already. If we then look at the CVD divergences, then we do have over here bullish and bearish CVD divergences. So we have bullish CVD divergences between over here, higher low on price, lower low on the CVD. Target is the high over here. More locally, if we go to the 15, we had some bullish CVD divergences here at the lows, and we also see bearish CVD. Now the first bearish CVD was over here with this pivot over here, right? Played out as price took this low. Then we had a second CVD with this same pivot over here, also played out as price then took this low. And this is now the third time that these highs, after 2 times playing out, have a CVD divergence with the highs. Has to be said that the more often you have a CVD divergence with the same pivot, the lower the probabilities are for that CVD divergence to play out. And this is now the third time, so again a bit lower probabilities that that will play out. So that is at least something we have to keep in mind. And on the CVD chart it looks like this, where over here you can see lower high on price, higher high on yellow. That's the first CVD divergence. Then again, lower high on price, but a higher high on yellow over here. This is the second CVD divergence with this pivot, also played out. And now you can see lower high, but again, higher high on the CVD, where now the target would be this low over here. That would be a third CVD divergence with the same pivot. Also, you can see the bullish CVD divergence here, higher low on price, lower low on yellow and on blue for the potentially continuation. Now, this bullish CVD divergence also already played out, but it could lead to potential continuation to the upside. That is, of course, something we have to wait and see. So the main thing locally is, yeah, we have some bullish CVD and bearish CVD divergences. We are looking for a bit of a move to the upside, preferably. Time is a bit of a thing because this wave W is very short compared to then a much longer wave X. So could Y already be in? Like maybe, but it doesn't look nice as it didn't hit the 0.618. So if we then look at the probabilities finally, then on the medium time frame, preferably looking for a bit more upside before eventually a move to the downside, where then we finish this wave B for then eventually a bigger wave C towards the downside. If we go to the low time frame, well, it's basically just zooming into the medium time frame structure I just mentioned, so not really worth looking at that probabilities wise, because the probabilities are the same. And then on the micro, also preferably here looking for a bit more upside, even though we've been ranging here for a very long time already. Would be nice to find more upside. If this low is taken, then I think we could go to lower prices, but it is weekend, and weekend, you know, usually you have the weekend range, so it's been very much a ranging structure at the moment. So let's see if we get some price action today, but this is definitely something I'm looking for at the moment, where we also have the resistance areas as mentioned with the time naked and the daily over here, so the time naked point of control and the daily level. So let's wait and see what price is going to give us. I hope this video was helpful or valuable to you. Please check out the most recent educational video I've made about the best trading indicator you can use in my opinion, which is the CVD. And for now, thanks for watching and subscribing, and I'd like to see you at the next one. Bye bye.